Introduction to 1967 Graduate and 2013 Graduate. First, let us read a short clip from the movie The Graduate, 1967. Mrs. Robinson. Benjamin. Benjamin? Yes? Mrs. Robinson. Isn't there something you want to tell me? Benjamin. Tell you? Mrs. Robinson. Yes. Benjamin. Well, I want you to know how much I appreciate this. Really. Mrs. Robinson. The number? Benjamin. What? Mrs. Robinson. The room number, Benjamin. I think you ought to tell me that. Benjamin. Oh, you're absolutely right. It's 568. Mrs. Robinson. Thank you. Benjamin. You're welcome. Benjamin, listen to me. What happened between Mrs. Robinson and me was nothing. It didn't mean anything. We might as well have been shaking hands. Mr. Robinson. Shaking hands? Well, that's not saying much for my wife, is it? Explanation. According to some movie scholars, the two dialogues above are some of the most revolutionary in American movie history. The Graduate was released in 1967. In the movie, a young college graduate, Benjamin, had an affair with Mrs. Robinson, the wife of his father's friend. They had talked on the phone before they had the rendezvous in the hotel. The innocent Benjamin thought that Mrs. Robinson would want to talk about personal feelings, but the mature Mrs. Robinson merely asked coldly, "The room number, Benjamin. I think you should tell me." In the second dialogue, Benjamin has become sophisticated. He said to Mr. Robinson, "It did not mean anything." The above two conversations were deemed revolutionary because the image of a woman traditionally is a weaker gender. She was supposed to be reserved and idealistic and need a combination of spiritual and physical integration to achieve fulfillment. But the action of Mrs. Robinson is that of someone liberated from traditional taboo. She represents a strong-willed, mature, and sexy housewife, and engages in an extramarital affair with a younger man without needing romance for justification. Further, she was made even more popular by the hit song Mrs. Robinson by Simon and Garfunkel. Thus, Mrs. Robinson, the movie personality, became the new icon or poster child of a new liberated woman. Anne Bancroft, who played her in the movie, was nominated for an Oscar. Dustin Hoffman was also propelled to stardom. The rebellion against the puritanical restraint and hypocrisy of an earlier generation is a conspicuous feature of the baby boom generation and is discussed in a different section. In the postgraduate era, the number of Hollywood movies with love stories as main themes declined from 30% to 11%. Of course, the changes of American attitude toward sex and love in the past decades have been caused by many factors besides movies, such as The Graduate, including the invention of contraceptive medicine or the pill. Nevertheless, The Graduate was definitely a landmark in the history of movies. We are happy to announce that almost after 50 years, The Graduate, Benjamin, and Mrs. Robinson are again appearing in our skit, the 2013.
Good morning, Mrs. Robinson. I'm Benjamin Hoffman. No relationship to Dustin Hoffman.
Please be seated, Benjamin. For a Florida State graduate, you have a pretty sophisticated sense of humor.
Oh, FSU has a well-deserved reputation as a party school. I did party hard. Hitting the books, not so much.
But I see you got a Fulbright to teach in Taiwan. That is quite an academic honor. How did you swing that?
My dad owns a plastic factory in Orlando and was the head of his Chamber of Commerce. He pulled some strings for me.
So you know about manipulating Guanxi already. Welcome to China, the epitome of Guanxi. You will fit right in here. Everybody at the embassy has the duty of observing and learning about China, so we are encouraged to go out and mingle with the people and build relationships. We don't want you to be a hermit inside the compound. Just don't forget what the Godfather said.
Yes, ma'am. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Good. You saw the long line around the block of people waiting for their visas? We are swamped, so I will get right to your orientation.
Yes, ma'am.
Normally, your immediate supervisor, Slava, will give you the orientation, but she is on leave in San Francisco, so I do it for her. I will make it short and sweet, as I have another briefing in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
First, you are expected to work 7/24, and don't even breathe a word about overtime pay or getting time off to get married. They are all hereby denied.
Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Robinson. I know hard work and sacrifice come with the territory.
Okay, I will hold you to it, Benjamin.
Yes, ma'am.
Second, ours is the biggest and most strategic of all American embassies today. Our ambassador runs a tight ship. He expects all protocol to be followed exactly. No freelancing or making waves. One mistake and you are detailed to Mali or Libya, if you are lucky.
Understood.
You are the assistant to Slava. She is a taskmaster, but fair. So when she says to you, jump, what do you say?
I salute and say, how high?
So far, so good, Benjamin. You are getting the hang of being a Foreign Service officer. You can go now.
May I ask a question, Mrs. Robinson?
Before you say anything, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Do you? If your question is, what does a single American man do for fun in Beijing? The answer is, forget about it.
I want to ask is, where is the restroom on this floor?
Oh, turn left to the end of the hallway.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. Bye.
Bye, Benjamin.